expectations as far as the weather in Baltimore, it's going to be unseasonably warm. We think we're going to see rain.
Yeah, I think that's sort of what everybody's preparing for and looking at the forecast and trying to figure it out. But you guys know this. This is kind of maybe the least weather game the Chiefs have faced, which is kind of crazy to say. And it seems like the Chiefs, every single week, it warms up 30 degrees. When it starts with a negative 30-degree wind chill game here at Arrowhead, you can only go up from there. But, studies have shown over time that usually wind is more of a factor than rain is. Obviously, maybe a drop pass or two could be part of the equation there. But the winds seem like they'll be manageable, or at least more manageable than what the Chiefs faced earlier, especially against Miami. So I would think mostly these two offenses, the hurdles they're going to face are going to be the other team's defense. And obviously with the matchup that's coming up this weekend, we know that both these teams can play a little bit of ball on that end and can make it life tough for these two quarterbacks.
Jesse, is there something wrong with Travis Kelce or an injury that needs to be concerned with for people looking at some of his prop bets? He had a 3-game stretch in late December where he caught 13 passes for 88 yards. Now he's going against Queen, Roquan Smith, and potentially Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah, so he had the knee injury earlier this year. The very first game he sat out against the Lions and then kind of battled through it all year. Later on in the season, he was on the injury report with a neck injury, but just continued to play through it. I think what's sort of interesting, guys, is I get this question a lot, and I think what we saw last week is part of what Kelce was hoping would happen when he sat out the Week 18 game against the Chargers. He was only a handful of yards short of getting another 1,000-yard receiving season, which obviously is something he's done for many years in a row. It's an NFL record for tight ends with that. But he even mentioned to our Sam McDowell here at the Kansas City Star when he asked him last week, how is your body feeling after that week off? And he said, actually, the week after I'm even feeling better by taking that week off and not having those hits and doing a little bit more treatment you're able to do when you're not focusing on a game in Week 18. And so I think we saw a different Travis Kelce last week. Now, the guy's 34 years old, and I always have to continually look this up because it just amazes me every time I do. But Travis is 5 months away birth-wise from Rob Gronkowski. Rob Gronkowski retired, came back, retired again, has been retired for a couple of years now, and Travis Kelce is still one of the most productive tight ends in the NFL. So part of this is age-related. Part of this is just going to be a natural decline for him. But I do think we saw a different player here in the last couple of weeks. He hasn't dropped against Miami. I think that was really the cold weather and him getting adjusted to that. But I do think we saw a more fresher guy last week, and partially part of the production we saw from him could be because of that.
Good nugget. I didn't know that. Jesse Newell, Kansas City Star. You wrote about Steve Spagnuolo in the Star. Let's talk about him because his in-game adjustments are awesome, halftime adjustments. My expectation, Jesse, the Ravens are going to run the football. How did the Chiefs stack up against that?
Not great, to be completely honest with you. And really where the Chiefs have feasted this year is if they get teams in 3rd and long and they get some of these exotic blitz packages out where they've got a McDuffie coming off the edge and George Karlaftis dropping into coverage, and you're able to, get this creative thing going while still playing zone behind it. That's where the Chiefs have kind of been really effective this season. Where it hasn't looked as good is sort of you look back at the Buffalo game last week, where if a team can run the football and have a quarterback who can run and be unpredictable on 3rd down, that's where the Chiefs have struggled. I think there's 27th at DVOA in run defense this year, so that has been their problem. Now, I think part of that's by design, guys, because if you're going to pick one of the two things to be good at, it's obviously pass defense. This is a passing league, and we know that pass offenses in most games are what win football games. So there is a weakness there. The Chiefs going to be without Derek Nottie in this particular game, too. He was injured here recently, and so they'll be without him in the middle. Chris Jones, I saw some Yahoo stats this week about him and how quarters 1 through 3 this season, he had 9 tackles against the run all season. And so maybe the motivation hasn't been there as much as years past to get in the run game. But the motivation might be there this game. I just actually wrote about this. It's sort of interesting. There was so much made of Week 18 where Chris Jones played with the backup to try to get his 10th sack to get a $1.25 million bonus. Well, you go back to his contract, and there's actually another bonus in it that says if he makes All-Pro and the Chiefs make the Super Bowl, he earns $1 million more. So might be just a touch more motivation. I would have more motivation if $1 million was on the line. So we'll see if we all see the best of Chris Jones coming up. But he's a key to the run defense along with the linebackers, along with them, trying to get a team like Baltimore into 3rd and long. If that happens, I like the Chiefs' chances.
Jesse, outside of 15, who's the most important person on the Chiefs offense? And if they're going to be successful and get a win on Sunday, who's that person that needs to step up in a big way?
Yeah, I still think it's Kelce. You look at this. Chiefs have been in the AFC Championship game 6 straight years. I mean, you talk about some of these guys on the team. Well, the last time the Chiefs were not in the AFC Championship game, or the first year that they were, guys on the current team were barely starting to get offers in high school for college. I mean, some guys were throwing parties to watch the AFC Championship game at their house when they were, 16, 17 years old. So it's pretty amazing this run they've been on. But you look at the constants from that. I mean, Patrick Mahomes has had a lot of different guys on the roster for this stuff, but constants are him. They're Chris Jones, they're Andy Reid, and they're Travis Kelce. And so those two guys, when they're on, when they can see things the same way, which they so often do, they can beat good defense. They can read things post-snap. It's kind of a mind meld. Sometimes it's hard for them to even explain it, but Patrick just sort of says afterwards, like, I knew Kelce wasn't supposed to do that. I knew he was going to do it anyway, and so I threw it to where I thought he wasn't supposed to be, and it worked out. And that's how they can carve up zone coverages. I know Baltimore, runs a lot of that, but he really is their zone killer. Obviously, Rashee Rice has come on late in the season, and if we're going to really nitpick at Baltimore, if there's any area to attack defensively, maybe the run defense is a little bit vulnerable, maybe, and so you bring Isaiah Pacheco into that conversation and how hard he runs the football. But end of the day, I just think, man, big games like this, obviously 15 is the big one, but Travis Kelce is the guy he's relied upon for so long, and the guy that's always seemed to have that mind meld. When things aren't going right, he can always find the connection with him. And so if the Chiefs are going to win this game, I certainly think it's going to be one of those vintage Mahomes-Kelce games, and that's potentially what could lift them to another Super Bowl appearance.
Jesse, as bettors, we try to measure motivation, but it's quite nebulous, obviously. You just mentioned the Chiefs, 6 straight AFC Championship appearances. Like, they're the dog here. Help us understand the motivation angle.
Well, I think you saw it last week. And listen, Bills Mafia is crazy. You know what I mean? Like, they were ready for that game. I mean, there's videos out there online you can find. The Chiefs bus is getting pelted by snowballs. They're getting middle fingers on the way in. Mahomes is trying to give his gloves away after the game. He's getting pelted by more snowballs, all this sort of thing. Chris Jones is getting into it with fans. But before the game, going back and forth with them. But I do think sometimes you have to find that thing that triggers you, that gets you going. I mean, sort of famously now, Travis Kelce at last year's parade talked about how everybody doubted the Chiefs, and that lifted them to the Super Bowl. Well, throughout the course of the season, the Chiefs were like the second best team in football. You know what I mean? Like, nobody was really doubting them. You know what I mean? But, like, when it comes to that edge, you have to find that. You know what I mean? It's sort of interesting if you guys go on Twitter. Bobby Stroop is the trainer for Patrick Mahomes, his personal trainer who helps him out, the lifts and all those sorts of things. And it's funny, every single week, Bobby tries to find things in the media that sort of are disparaging the Chiefs. I think partly because he knows Patrick Mahomes reads that Twitter feed, and he wants them to be kind of fired up for these particular games. So there's something there. And the Chiefs aren't usually underdogs. And the other part we have to speak into this is, I don't want to get the numbers. These are going to be approximate. You can look me up, but it's pretty close. As an underdog, Mahomes is just out of this world. I mean, he's 9-1-1 against the spread and 8-3 overall as an underdog in his career. So they relish this. And you could tell Patrick Mahomes' video of his post-game speech is up online. The Chiefs posted on Twitter. And one of the things he said about the Bills was they got what they wanted. They got the Chiefs in Buffalo, and the Chiefs took care of business from there. So I do think there is that aspect of this. And I do think the Chiefs, for so long seen as the favorites of this conference, do enjoy this role of playing the villain. And so we'll see if they can do it again on Sunday. It's obviously difficult against a very, very, very good Ravens team, but I think this is a role the Chiefs like to play.
30 seconds. Give us a prediction, Jesse.
Yeah, guys. I mean, Baltimore's the better team. Baltimore's got the better defense, the better pass defense. Baltimore has the home advantage, and they've got all the fans, and yet the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes. So that should make for a classic. I picked against the Chiefs last week, and I'm not going to do it again this week because I saw what number 15 could do. So we'll see if the Chiefs end up again in the Super Bowl. If they do, it'll be because of Patrick Mahomes.
Visit VSiN.com to get current odds, listen for free, find showtimes, and download VSiN sports betting podcasts.